Well, if you've watched any of my previous videos, you see that this has now a new look and feel. It's the new intro that I have developed. And I have not changed the mission statement of this channel, but I have changed the focus, as was indicated in the intro. I'm tending to focus now on our evolving consciousness as the human race. And I wanted to make a quick announcement at the request of my wife, Linda, who wanted me to say that even though we announced previously in a previous video that she was going to very soon probably have a different channel of her own on which we would both appear and talk about partnership and other things. That is not probably going to happen for a while. One of the main reasons being our puppy Pookie that I introduced in the last video. And if you stick around to the end, I'll show you an update on how he looks after his first grooming session. I intend with this new focus to choose topics where we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. And I intend to have topics that are based solely on spiritual guidance rather than my intellectually thinking up something with my ego. I intend to use my intuition and get guidance directly from Spirit on everything that I talk about on this channel. I am, of course, going on faith that Spirit will continue to give me enough of topics of that nature that this can go on in that mode. It's really an experiment, and when it comes right down to it, isn't everything we do an experiment? Heck, life is an experiment. If you're doing the same old all the time, it may not feel like an experiment, but it really is an experiment in finding out if doing the same old thing all the time and not ever changing anything is in fact going to make you happy. I think we come into this life with a plan of what we want to do, and it's an experiment in effect to see if it's going to work out the way we anticipated before we agreed to be born. And besides, I'm getting the impression from my spiritual guidance that there's something Spirit has in store for me as a different direction somewhere down the road, and I don't know what that means. I just get the impression that something's going to happen that's going to give me an understanding that I might go in a different direction than I'm going now. So the focus that I'm talking about for this channel is for now. I mentioned in a previous video that I had channeled the content of that video, and I was reading it because I wanted to read it as channeled. And a viewer in a comment asked for my process. What is my process in channeling? And I'm thinking that maybe it would be a good idea if I use that word very hesitantly with respect to my process, because my process isn't what you might think of when you think of channeling. There are people who have the ability to get their consciousness so in tune with the consciousness of the entity they're channeling that they in fact speak for that entity. And a good example of that is Lee Carroll channeling Cryon. When Lee Carroll sits down in the chair, the voice that comes out of him says, I'll try to think exactly what he says, but it's dear ones, I am Cryon of magnetic service. I missed a word or two, but Lee Carroll speaks for Cryon, as Cryon, as it comes out of his mouth. Then there are people that do automatic writing. Jane Roberts is a good example, who channeled the Seth books. quite a few years back now. But those people have the ability to put pen to paper or sit at a typewriter or a computer, and they get verbatim the words that Spirit is channeling to them. Those are not my gifts. My gifts are a fairly well-developed intuition and wordsmithing. As a published author and as a person who's done a lot of writing in my career as a technical writer and other venues, I'm a pretty adept wordsmith, putting ideas into words. And Spirit can use those gifts that you have. And so my process is basically intuitively getting ideas and concepts and pretty clear ideas of the kinds of things I'm being guided to put out there. But Spirit leaves it up to me to put the words on it and verbalize it and articulate it in such a way that I think is getting across the idea that Spirit gave to me. And then I am continually, all through this process, looking to Spirit to say, is that right? Do I have this accurately, or do I need to edit it? Or do I need to change it? Do I need to go in a different direction? And I get my guidance primarily from goosebumps and a very clear understanding that I'm getting a yes. I don't actually hear the word yes. I just get a feeling of yes. Or when I'm really on track, I quite often get chills or goosebumps all over my body that says, yes, you're on the right track. So that's my process. I will be very careful about how I refer to that as channeling in the future, because it's I don't want to mislead anybody. My process is an iterative one. I get an idea, I put it into words. I say, have I expressed correctly what Spirit is conveying to me? And if I either get let's work on that some more, or yes, you've got it right, and that is my process. In this particular video, I'm not going to go into any other topics other than the one that is suggested by the icons that I have included on the intro that you saw leading into this video. And there are two different sets of ideas that those icons I chose for that intro to suggest and talk about. One is a subset of women's equality. Now, I'm very painfully aware that women in this country are going through a very painful process, having reproductive rights taken away. But the oldest video there of a woman typing, and shown in black and white on purpose, is to show that at one point in time, within my lifetime, things were different than they are today. I went to high school in the mid-50s. I'm that old. And it was a small town high school, but I can't imagine big cities were a whole lot different at that point in time, in that boys generally didn't take typing. Girls took typing. And the reason for that was that boys were more likely to go to college and be managers or executives, and girls were more likely to be, if not nurses or teachers, secretaries. And I was a beneficiary of that way of thinking. When I was first in the Air Force as an officer and in a management role, I had a secretary. And all I'd have to do is say, please type this memo up. I want you to say such and such, and she'd type it, and I'd sign it, and off it would go. And the reason that boys didn't take typing in the 50s was that we didn't anticipate that I was going to have a keyboard in front of me for the rest of my life. In my day job, I've got 3 keyboards on my desk, and I still type one finger at a time. Basically, I've gotten so used to typing certain words that I can do ION, for example, and da da da, But basically, I have to hunt for every single key to this day because girls took typing and boys didn't back then. At least that was my perception, and I don't think I'm far off. The middle video on the intro shows a woman executive to show that women have come a long way. And I was trying to remember the phrase "You've come a long way, baby," which was in an ad back in my day, and I think it was 1968 or something. It was for a cigarette that was marketed to women. I think it was Virginia Slims. When I first Googled "You've come a long way, baby," it said something about Fat Boy Slim, and that's way too new for my my generation to understand. But I remember that it was an ad marketed to direct or targeted to women. And it has a place in a lot of variable ways. Women have come a long way, and they're certainly not equal. And the whole topic of equality between the genders is one that is still ongoing, and it's a subset of the quality of all of us, which includes people of color and everything else, which is not even addressed in the icons of that intro. But it's a bigger topic that will probably be addressed by me in the near future. And the future icon was not easy. I showed a person meditating because the picture of the future is not an easy one to come up with, but my intention was that would indicate just in general terms what the fact that we are headed toward, I believe, a time when men and women will be actually treated equally, paid equally, and so on. We're not there yet, obviously. It'll take a while. But the other idea that these icons suggest, besides a subset of women's equality having evolved to some extent and not evolved nearly enough, is the subject of technology. And that isn't the main thing that these little videos imply, but it's another one that I want to mention. The old typewriter is of an era when we had technology was essentially having given us tools to make our work easier. We had electric and gas stoves, we had refrigerators, we had typewriters, we had a lot of things that made our life easier back in the 40s and 50s and the earlier part of my life. But the technology that we have now is, in my opinion, going beyond tools. They're enhancing human capabilities. They allow us to communicate instantly around the world with a device held in our hand. My iPhone is essentially not only the telephone is a minor part of the thing I use it for. It's a way to text anybody anywhere in the world. It's essentially replaced encyclopedias with Google. We can find out anything you want to know in fractions of a second, basically. It's a source of music. It's a source of so many things. And not only are we using those kinds of abilities, but things like artificial intelligence are creeping into our lives. I tended to think of artificial intelligence as something that some scientists and IT people that are more advanced than the kinds of thing I do are working on and trying to develop. But it's here. I wear a sleep band here to tell me how well I slept, and I have an app on my iPhone that tells me, that interprets the data that I got from the wristband, and it has a capability that apparently is based on artificial intelligence that designs music based on my sleep patterns to help me sleep better. And that's on my iPhone right now. So in the present, technology has gone beyond, in my opinion, just mere tools. It's such a combination of advanced capabilities that it affects how we interact with other people, how we interact with information, and all kinds of ways is just mind-bogglingly advanced. Now, when we go to the future icon on this track, I firmly believe that there are, and I'm getting this from advanced higher entities that channel information, like Cryon and others. I put together a belief from things that I've been told from those kinds of sources. I believe that there are entities, there are beings, ETs, if you like, out there, some other places in the universe that are so advanced that they don't need technology in the same way we do. When we tend to think of the future, we tend to think of flying cars and all kinds of advanced technology that would blow our minds even now. But some of these advanced civilizations, I firmly believe, don't really need technology to the extent that we do now. They can go anywhere. They can go interdimensionally. They can go anywhere they want to. They can communicate with anybody they want to instantly through their consciousness. I believe that's where we're headed. So I meant the 3 little videos that I had in my intro with the black and white woman typing on an ancient typewriter, and a female executive sitting at a desk with a phone and a computer, and the futuristic icon that I intended by the person sitting there meditating to represent not only an evolution of the way we treat people, but also an evolution of the way we use and may not even ultimately need technology. So I throw those ideas out as food for thought and just kind of a pattern for how I hope to be able to take on other subjects that follow similar evolutions from ideas and energies that we have discarded already because they no longer serve, and comparing that to the energies that we have now, and comparing that to the energies that we hope to develop and create in the future of humanity, and as our planet and as our human race evolves in consciousness. That's my intent for this channel. Okay, like, subscribe, share, and I love your comments. Say bye-bye to the people. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye. See you next time.